Welcome to this QFloors webinar. Today we will be looking at the QFloors process, just a basic overview of the basic features in QFloors and how to use it day to day from start to finish. Again, it's just an overview. It's just the basic features. We're not going to go into every feature in the software. We're not going to go into detail about hardly any feature. It's just going to be where do we start, what do we do next, what do we do after that, just to get through the overall process. So this is really mainly for new QFloors users or someone who wants a refresher. We have not released version 6.1 to all of our customers yet, so I'm still using QFloors 6.0 for this webinar. Keep in mind that you can ask questions in the GoToMeeting toolbar on the upper right corner of your screen. There's a little orange button with a white arrow on it. If you click that arrow, you'll see a box where you can type a question, and then we'll either read that question or Deborah, who's here helping out with this webinar today, she might type a question or type an answer back to you. You can also raise your hand without opening that little toolbar. You see there's a hand button on there. If you click that, then you can ask a question verbally, but only if you are participating in the webinar with connected to the phone call. You've dialed into the phone number, or if you have a microphone and speakers connected to your computer, and if you have that configured to work with the GoToWebinar. But please do feel free to ask questions. We might tell you that we're not going to cover that today. So if you just keep that in mind before you ask a question, you know, is this question about a basic functionality of the software? And that's hard to determine. I don't want to completely discourage you from asking if you don't know. Just go ahead and ask it, and we might say, well, let me touch on it, but or not. We may not touch on it at all, but please go ahead and ask it if you're not sure. Okay, diving in. Logging on to QFloors, you should have, during the installation of the software, set up username and password for yourselves. And I'm into the wrong database here. Sorry about this. Okay, you'll have set up your own usernames and passwords in the employee subscreen. We're going to look at some of the setups just briefly. Some of these are very important for just using QFloors day to day. So we're going to start with employees and subs, which is this one over here. So you can click it in the menu, or you can click it over on the right side here. So this is where you set up employees and all of their details, and give them or give yourself access settings. Anything that is checked, that has a check mark, the person has access to it to get into that area or to do that function. And then username and password are down here. Your company information is pretty straightforward. Your locations and sales tax needs to be set up first. Sounds like people can't see my screen. Sorry about this. We'll start over. Okay, once again, welcome to the QFloors webinar. We'll be talking about the basics of using QFloors day to day. We're not going to go into details about any particular feature. It's just an overall overview of the basics in the program. So there's some features we won't look at all. Because we haven't released QFloors 6.1 to all of our users, I'm using QFloors 6.0. We'll probably do this again in other trainings and webinars using QFloors 6.1 when we've released that to everyone. Go ahead and ask questions. As I said earlier, ask questions even though you may not think you may think a feature is basic or you're not sure. Just ask it anyway, and we'll let you know if we'll touch on it or not. So under setup, we're going to look at some of these setups first. Your company information should be pretty straightforward. Your company name and address and tax ID numbers. Employees subs over here, or it's in the menu as well. So this is where you add in your employees, your installers, and give them access rights. Whatever has a check mark, the person has access to that area or to do that function in the software. And down at the bottom right here, you give them a username and password. Other setups that are important just to start using the software day to day. Your chart of accounts, that's helpful when you get into doing the bills and credits. You work with your accountant on getting those set up. Of course, ask us questions if you're not sure. Labor types, this is a very important one to have set up before you start using the software to create invoices. Our recommendation is you think these through on paper first, list them out. What do we want to call it when we print an invoice? What do we want that to show on screen? And what price unit we sell it by the foot or the yard or the piece, and retail price and cost, and these are cost levels. You might pay one installer this and another installer this cost and another installer this cost. You can set up different cost levels. But list them out on paper first, and then set up, come back and change the ones that are already in your QFloors program. Remember to press the enter key. It's very important throughout QFloors that when you're typing something into a box on the invoice or a bill or whatever, type it in, press tab or enter, usually the enter key is what we normally say, but press tab or enter, and that will lock in what you typed. If you just type something in and click somewhere else, you're probably not going to keep, it's not going to stick. You'll have to go back and retype it and press enter. About labor types and chart of accounts and some other setups like product types as well. Be careful about coming back and changing these later. You may have set them up initially, and then you want to come back and change them 6 months down the road when you're a little more familiar with QFloors and you see ways that you may have done it a little differently or a little better. If we were to change, say, this sheet vinyl installation and go back through the whole list, and anyway, sheet vinyl is changed to read ceramic tear out. Any invoice, even completed invoices that used to say vinyl sheet labor would now say ceramic tear out. So be careful about changing them later. Think them through well to start with, and then just change the existing list that's in your new QFloors program to match what you've listed out on paper. Another suggestion in there is give them a prefix, how we've got here, carpet standard, carpet Berber, carpet stairs, so just give it a prefix. That helps when you're on the invoice because where you're selecting from here, it alphabetizes that list. So now all of my carpet labor items are grouped together. Some other setups that you want to make sure you have done before you start using the software: have your commissions set up if you pay commissions. I'm not going to go into detail here, but you want to have that set up so the QFloors does calculate the correct commission. Your vendor accounts, this will be for who do we pay bills to? Utility companies, credit cards, insurance, and of course your flooring vendors and any vendor you're purchasing items for resale. The pizza place down the road, any vendor that you're dealing with on a frequent and regular basis, you want to have them added in here. Same with customer accounts. This is important before you start creating invoices. Customer accounts, these are the regularly repeating customers. Contractors, builders, property management companies, or individuals that are coming back to you on a regular basis. Maybe that's once every 2 or 3 months, once a year perhaps, but they come back on such a regular basis that you want to have them in this list. Now you might have Mrs. Jones came in 3 years ago and she's back here now for another purchase. That I don't think I would put her into my customer accounts list. Her name would be stored in the software on the invoice from 3 years ago, and QFloors saves those in a list of contacts. Now there's not a contact setup in here, but there is when you first start with QFloors. You can import a list of contacts. You can also import a separate list of customer accounts. So again, they are treated separately in the software. Price formulas, that can be really helpful before you start using the software, not as critical as some of these others. And then your product catalog, this is your price list. This is not a list of inventory. This is a list of pricing. When you buy this particular style, then what are the details about it? What's your roll and cut costs, or bulk costs if it's hard surface, if you buy a pallet, or buy a few boxes if there's a different cost there. Just a definition about that style and color. Keep in mind that every product that you actually sell, physical goods, needs to have both a style name and a color name. You can set up your catalog with just a style name and no colors, just to get that style into the system with its cost, and then you can add colors as you go. It's not completely critical that you have all of your vendors and a bunch of their styles in the software before you start using the program. You'll have the case even day to day after you've been using the software for years where you're selling a style that's not in your catalog at all. So you can type it out on an invoice line, and we'll look at that. Just type it out on the invoice line and take a down payment, and away they go. And it's not in the catalog yet. But it's extremely helpful to have those items in the catalog. It makes it a lot easier when you are creating the sale or creating the inventory. That's why there's this business-to-business, the B2B technology that the flooring industry put together a number of years ago, where you can download your pricing from certain vendors if they are participating in that B2B standard. Not all vendors do, unfortunately, and so those that don't, you'll add styles and colors as you go, or you'll ahead of time create some styles and colors for at least part of their price list. It's a little bit tricky sometimes to do this, but you can import a vendor's price list by spreadsheet, the way that we were looking at talking about contacts and customers and that. But you can import a spreadsheet file from the vendor, but it's often a fair amount of work to take a spreadsheet that they give to you and manipulate it, work with it to get it ready to the point that QFloors can import it. There's an instruction document on our website for that. But often the spreadsheets that your vendors will give you have graphics and formatting and multiple tabs at the bottom of the spreadsheet, multiple sheets within the one file, and the type of file that we have to be able to import can't work with that. It has to be a very basic, simple text type CSV file. But it can be done. Okay, so that's setups. Some of the important ones that you really need to have done before starting to use QFloors day to day. Full instructions for all of this. I should have mentioned this earlier. Full instructions for features in QFloors. We have those in some basic training webinars and intermediate training webinars that we've done in the past recently. and those are on our website as videos. We've recorded them just like we're recording this one so that you can come back and watch it later. There's a question here, is Carpet One up and running for B2B? I don't know, Daryl. I'm not 100% sure. We're going to go look. We're just going to go here to QFloors.com. This is a really good question, and I think it deserves that everyone should see this. So when you go to QFloors.com and you log in up here with your password, Ron is the best. Oh no, I changed it. Deborah is the best. It's a new password today. Okay, so when you're logged into the website, sorry, you don't have to be logged in for this. I lost track. You don't have to log in to go look at this. Move the mouse arrow over Partners without actually clicking it, and then click B2B in the menu here. And we'll scroll down, and I don't see Carpet One in the list here. So this is a list of vendors we know that are doing business-to-business transactions. Have we certified, we've tested their file for importing a price list, and we've certified that, yeah, their file actually imports, it meets the B2B standard. Some of the vendors took years to get their files to where they were compatible with the B2B standard. So it doesn't appear that Carpet One is. And really about the only way that they'll do it is they've got to appropriate funds for it and get enough push from their customers to do it. So hopefully you can get them towards that. I'm kind of thinking there might be something for Carpet One in our application notes. Let's see here. I'm going to go to this data importing and technical items section here on the application notes, and pretty sure there's not. If I come up with something, if I'm wrong, and then I'll get back to you, Daryl, and we'll make sure we get something out here a little more apparent on the website. Let me just do a search real quick. Nope, nothing on our page here for that. Okay. We do have a CCA, but I don't remember if that's Carpet One. Let's see, Daryl is, or if anyone else knows that can raise a hand or can type a message. I don't think CCA is Carpet One, but I don't remember for sure. CCA Global, I think, is what they're also called. Gateway is Carpet One. Okay, very good. So it is doable. I knew there was something that I was missing. So you can do the CCA Gateway. What you have to do first is go to their website and download a file. You'll probably have to contact them about how to get a file, and then once you have the file, then you'll click CCA Gateway and go find it. Where did you save that file, and open it, and then from there it works just like a B2B import after that. So we can look at that, Daryl, or anyone else. We can do that as a phone training appointment. sounds like we ought to do a webinar just on that. So Daryl's saying it's just a pricing system on their website. So good, we do have that feature for you. Let's see. Doing the B2B downloads, there's a whole webinar on our website about importing those. It starts with this B2B button down at the bottom. There are some other things that you have to have set up first. In the product catalog, you want to have a manufacturer name. Usually, not always. I have J.J. Haynes as a manufacturer here, but our recommendation for importing for J.J. Haynes or BPI is don't add that manufacturer in. Let the B2B file add their manufacturer names in for you, meaning the manufacturer names of all the different product lines that they carry. Maybe Armstrong or Bruce Hardwood or whatever product lines, you want those styles in here rather than just dumping them all under a J.J. Haynes manufacturer, because then you don't know, it's not apparent anyway, if that style name, whose it really is. It would just look like it's a J.J. Haynes item and you lose the manufacturer name. Your product types need to be set up as well. Make sure that you have a wood item. We've seen kind of our own fault here where some of our databases have gone out after installation that they don't have wood, but you can put in any product you have. Make sure that your the types that you add in, such as furniture or paint or appliances and things like that, make sure that they don't start with the same 3 or 6 letters as the B2B types, which are really number 15 or 16 and above. WAL, VIN, RUG. The B2B is looking really at just the first three-letter code, or in some new cases here, they've got 6 letters: vinyl strip, stone, granite. There's also carpet tile, vinyl tile. Again, there's more specific detailed training on that out on in some other webinars. Okay, we're going to get in now to just the generic overall process flow, how to use the software day to day, and we're going to start with leads. Leads are not people or companies. Leads are opportunities for sales. Of course, a lead is associated with a person or a company, and we'll have details about that person and what type of advertising brought them in. Did they walk in or phone call, things like that. But the lead really is helping you as a company to track this opportunity for a sale. What type of advertising generated it? Did we win or lose it? What types of items were they looking for? So you can get reports about that. So there's a couple of ways of using the leads, just to go into some setup a little more under leads management. You can have an up list activated or not, and if it's activated, what will increment the up list? An up list is basically which salesperson is up next. And if you have that activated, then under the edit menu, there's an option for a salesperson to log into the up list, and then you'll have a list of names, or you'll have names listed across the bottom here. Which salesperson is up next would show on the left, and then the second person that's up, and the third, fourth, and it'll show 4 at a time. And when that person has created a lead, their name drops off and moves to the end of the list, and the number 2 moves to number 1, and so forth. May not work for your storefront, may not function for you well, so you can deactivate it. And then you can require advertising or looking for, meaning are we going to force the salesperson to select advertising, and what were they looking for, carpet, vinyl, so forth. If you have the up list activated, then this new button will read up instead of new. I guess someone has to be logged into the up list, because mine doesn't show that, obviously. Up manager. So I'm not going to log into it, but if someone's logged in, you'll see names across, and it'll say up instead of new. Just a little general instructions about this. All leads, of course, will list all leads. Once you've created a lead, initially it will be a new lead, and then you'll come and change it to fill in some more detail, and after you save that, it will be a current lead. So it's a new lead for a relatively short period of time. And then when you change it to won or lost down at the bottom right, it'll be a completed lead. The general idea behind the lead screen is that I'm a salesperson, I'm sitting at my desk, phone call comes in, or a customer walks in, and at that instant I click new and I fill out a little bit of information and save it, and then go work with the customer. It may not be easy to do when you're on the phone, may not be really feasible that way. Sometimes it's not feasible to do that even when a customer walks in if you're trying to greet customers within the first 30 seconds or a minute or so, whatever your policies are. But that is the general intent, is start this, plug in a little information so that, especially if you're using the up list, so that my name moves to the end of the list. I've started my lead, whoever's up next can take that option, take their up. So we click new, and I have the up list activated. Guess I'm going to have to log in. And I'm going to double click my name and OK. There we go. I probably have to close QFloors and reopen for it to show up. I'm just going to click new, and it shows your name here. Or if I'm not Michael, then I think you skip him. And but this description is something about the person. If you don't know their name, they just walked in. Just a little something about the person to identify them, so you can see it in the list and come back to them. Oh yeah, that was the man with the yellow hat. Everybody knows him, right? And we click OK, and there we have a lead. Now, then you go work with the customer, and you're going to get their name, address, phone number, what are they looking for, what type of advertising brought them in, all the details that you or your company is requiring. And you'll come back to this lead, and it shows that as the last name. So we can change that, and you press tab or enter, and it opens up this lookup window, which is the same as clicking lookup up here, and we can see under last name, do we have Adams in here at all? No, we don't. If we did see a list of customers with the last name of Adams, we could double click the one that we want if it's the same person. So I'm just going to click cancel and continue filling this out. And when do we expect this lead to close? When do we expect that we'll get this and actually get the sale? We expect that we might finish up with the customer this month, next month, to actually get the sale, not to finish the job, but when do we expect to get the okay from the customer to go ahead with the job? Maybe you don't know that yet, so you leave it blank. Your name, salesperson 2, we had already told it was a walk-in, but you could change that if needed. And then what type of advertising? The advertising, unfortunately, is not under the setup menu. Under File, then Preferences and Advertisement, you can set up your advertising options. And I'm wondering why I don't have a list of advertising over here. I don't know. I apologize. You should see that list there. I've seen it before. Priority is this, you'll have to decide as a company is number 1 or number 5 a high priority. So we pick an option there, and then what are they looking for? Carpet, vinyl, something. So and then some notes. List out different rooms and so forth. You can list other materials they're looking for. You can type in some notes. You can save it. You must enter one of the advertising. Oh, nice. Well, I apologize. I've not seen this happen before. There we go. Okay. Some other details you can indicate down here if it's known. How do we expect they're going to be paying for it? They're going to be financing it. Kind of projected sale total. And we can save that lead. I must not have pressed enter. So we want to add this to the contacts. So Steve Adams is not already in our contacts. Yes, we want to add them in. Make any changes, any notes, click OK. You can add samples. This person's checking out a sample, so we're going to look at which one are they taking. You can pick a color if there's a specific color, or if they're taking a deck board with a whole bunch of colors on it, then you can leave that blank and just enter that sample. You can see a list of samples they have out or have checked back in. To check it in, you would double click. I do want to show you that you can do Control F as in find on your keyboard. Search for anything about the lead to find them. It's only going to search for whatever's currently in the list displayed. So you might have a long list and you may want to filter it down a little bit with a search down here. Searching for a sample, searching for a style, and you type in your style name. Double click. to check the lead back in. Go back to a history. Here, history is showing the lead. So you work with the customer, and if we get this sale, then we can create a new invoice. If not, then you can just change the status to lost and save it, add some more notes if necessary. We're not going to go into tasks right now, but you can create a task about this lead. Click the invoice button to start a new sale. There was a blank one showing here already. Do we want to save that blank one? No. So it starts this invoice. It doesn't carry over any details from the lead really, other than the customer information. We expect that we're going to install this later in the month sometime, and you'll want to come down to your email, press tab or enter to pick up where you would normally be on creating a sale. Are we going to install this at the same address, or are we going to deliver it there ourselves, yes or no? So we can click no if it's a contract or whatever, fill out some other information about the job site. Or if it's cash and carry, of course, click no. Jumping down into the body of the invoice, any comments? This comment is about the line item. General comments would be down at the bottom, or you can add some notes in over here. So this is going into the master bedroom, hall, stairs, usually identifying the rooms that the materials are being installed in, something specific about the materials and or the labor on this line. And then here you'll select your style. So if we type one in, if it's already in the product catalog, then you're selecting from the list that's already there. I'm going to use the right arrow key on my keyboard and jump over and type in, I need a 12 by some size here. You can change your price if the price is coming in from your formulas, or you can change your price. You can jump back over to this product number box and select some inventory. If we need 252 square feet and we have some other inventory out here that has enough for it, we can take one of those. If we know who's installing it, we'll select that from the list. If we don't know, we'll skip it and type it in later. Your labor types, we kind of looked at this earlier, so we're doing some type of labor. You're not able to just type whatever you want into that labor box. You've got to go set up your labor items. Change your prices and so forth. For doing some other material, maybe we're selling something that the style name and color name are not in the catalog. This is going to be you can type in 12 by some quantity and it'll fill that out for you, or you can just type in total square footage or yardage, either way. What price are we selling this at? I think I've changed my labor items here. You want to indicate all of the materials that you're going to use on this job. Perhaps not all the staples and seam tape and different installation supplies like that, but the trim pieces, the bull nose, square nose, all your field tiles and so forth. Just itemize those out. This is helping you to manage your sale, of course, and also the costs cost of the items if it knows the cost. It doesn't know the cost on this because I typed it in out of the blue. It wasn't in the catalog yet. And it's also managing your actual inventory balances by selecting product numbers here. So you do want to itemize all the materials that you've got to get lined up and ordered for this job. I didn't count that as we went. I'll say roughly 700 or so. And you just keep filling out line by line, adding comments to certain lines. You can do a line where it's no materials at all, but we're doing some labor. And we can say this is 2 rooms. Customer will move. Oops. The comments, you can't type a lot into the comments just yet. Down the road here, that'll be expanded. So abbreviate where you can. But that becomes part of the contract. That'll print out on your invoice. And it also will print on the work order to tell the installer here's what he will or will not be doing. So it's a really good idea to fill out those comment lines where you need them. And let's see, we'll show you a dummy line, what I call a dummy line. You can do for charging the customer for some delivery fee. You don't necessarily need a color here. Remember I said earlier you need a color and a style for anything that's actual physical goods, but this is not, of course. And you can charge a customer for that. You can do a non-taxable line. Now this sale, I've got this set up in a use tax situation. Most states in the United States have this use tax law. So it won't really change much here on screen for you, but to do a non-taxable line on, say, a cash and carry sale, or if you're in one of these states where you're taxing the materials but not the labor, or if you're taxing all materials and labor. So in some states you can't charge tax on the freight. So whatever the situation is, type something into the style, and each and one, something for units and quantity, but don't put a price on the materials part of the line. Come down and select no labor, each one, and then your price there. That's a non-taxable line. Little bit not very obvious on how to create that, but that's how you do it. And we're finished, so we save it, and we can print it right here. You're selecting my printing an invoice or a work order or bill of lading. That would be rarely used for more of a distributor function, but you'll click print and print it out. Payments, click the payments button. You can do this at any time, as whenever the customer pays. Initial payment, any payment along the way, final payment, it's all the same. Description is just describing the payment itself. Here in the type box you'll say if it's check, cash, or credit card, or debit card, and so forth. So I just want to give it the, if it's a check, then we're going to say it's check number. That's all you really need, just a check number. If it's credit card, well, all you really need is what brand of card was it, Visa, Amex, and so forth. Maybe the approval code or something off the receipt, last 4 digits of the card number. I would not list out the entire credit card number. I don't think you want to be in the practice of saving that in your system, but you could type in anything you need there. Add payment, close. Print the invoice, you've taken a payment, customer's on their way. Then the next step in the process would be this invoice confirmation. This is the starting point for getting materials lined up for this sale. And what you're doing is confirming that invoice lines, here we see invoice 1 lines 1 and 2, invoice 2 lines 1 and 2. Those are invoice lines, customer name, that needs certain quantities of certain materials. If we scroll down to the bottom here, we'll see our sale to Mr. Adams. And we've got multiple lines here. And we need these quantities of these materials. Let's see, the purpose here is to make sure we have existing stock inventory that should already be listed in the software here. Make sure that that inventory is linked up to be used on that invoice line, or create some product that we don't stock, but we've got to get it ordered for this job. So if you forget about QFloors for just a moment, we don't have the software. You're running your business, maybe handwriting invoices for your customer. In order to keep things running smoothly on your inventory, you would go out to the warehouse or call somewhere and ask, do we have enough of this for this job? Or maybe you've got a list that you keep printed and you update it daily or weekly with what's out there in the warehouse. Well, that's what this list is helping to do. It's helping to make sure that we have enough of some product out in the warehouse. And if we don't stock it, then you would write it down on a list. Maybe call the vendor right away while the customer's there. But you've just got to get it in a state where you're going to get it ordered. Maybe making a list. Well, in QFloors, it'll make a list of things to order for you. The only real objective in this list is to get a number in the parentheses instead of a 0. If we click on one of these, we click here and we see, oh, I can't do that one, sorry. I must have really click on one of ours. Here we go. It'll show you the product number. That as the salesperson created the sale, they selected a product number. That's what we did back here. We came back here and selected from existing stock. So we click the box on that line. We can click the box on that line and finalize. We haven't ordered anything. In fact, those were already they were already in the system, either to be ordered or they were already out there as existing stock. But it was in the system and we could reserve it for the job. Then we're left with these zeros. Here's this pad. We probably have some of that in stock. If we click the box on the line, then you'll get a message of something to do. It appears there may be some of this on order or in stock. And a list of possible selections has been displayed beneath the line. Would you like to select from this list? Yes, we do. So we click here and we see we need 700 square feet. Here we've got 4,700 that we can use. We'll click that and it shows it to you. Remember, the objective here is to get a number in the parentheses, but we don't have one yet. After you've clicked one here, then press enter, and that actually reserves, assigns, links up some of that product to be used on this job, and then we can click and finalize. Mystery cream soda. No manufacturer. We can click the box here and we'll get a different message. The manufacturer can't be found. So we need to select the manufacturer in the catalog or create one. So we'll tell it OK. It opens up the catalog, so we're either going to select one of these existing manufacturers or create a new one. So we'll pick one and then we fill in some blanks. It's 12 feet wide, or if it's hard surface, how many square feet per carton? That's extremely important. How many square feet per box if it's ceramic or wood or laminate? Now we're adding the color to that style. and it brought over the details that I typed into the style. Should QFloors automatically create a purchase order, create a product detail really for this item? Yes, so it's going to fill in the blanks here. It gives it a product number. It even links that product number up to the line for us. That's the objective in this list, is to get a number there and finalize. We haven't ordered it. All we did was put it into the list of things to get ordered. Now we're left with these lines here. They're really what I call dummy lines over on the invoice. They do show up in the invoice confirmation because those details were typed into the style and or color. But we don't really want to see them here. You don't want to do the invoice confirmation clicking the boxes and create inventory of freight or inventory of some non-taxable item, whatever you called it. So what you can do on your invoices, this is fairly new, is give things a hold status. This will keep it out of the invoice confirmation list. So you can do it for these dummy lines. You could also do it if you're working on a larger project and you're not ready to get some of this ordered yet. That way, whoever's doing the ordering of your materials, which by the way we recommend is not the salespeople. It's kind of a general business practice, recommended business practice, that those are kept separate. But anyway, you put things on hold. And if we refresh this list, then we don't see those anymore. They're gone. The person that does invoice confirmation day to day can see the hold items, but they're just not there actively to work with. And then really the salesperson should go back to their invoice lines and take them out of a hold status, put them to an order status when it's time to get them ordered. And there we've done all of the lines on our sale. And this list should be cleaned out every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. Whoever's doing the invoice confirmation should go through and clean it out. The next step would be purchase orders. This is a list of things that need to be ordered. Here we see the items that we created. There was one of these items that we needed that was purchase order status. I believe it was this one here. We can see the status of that product. So product number 17 needs to get ordered for this job as well. So the ordering process is simply clicking on the line somewhere to see the details and getting on the phone and placing the order, or going to the company's website to place the order, or in the case of Shaw or Mohawk or some of these other vendors, you can actually place the order through B2B. So when you have placed the order by phone or by by website, you can finalize PO. If you're on the phone with them, just type the reference number while you're right there on the phone. If you're placing the order through B2B, then you'll fill out this bottom section here and click the Send B2B button. This is also used down here if you want to print a purchase order so you can fax it. So we click OK, and that item drops off the purchase orders list because we've ordered it. You can do the same thing here. You can check off multiple items. Maybe we sort this by manufacturer and we see, well, we're on the phone with Mohawk for, maybe you've got the same PO number here, the same job for 3 or 4 different things. You can check off those 3 or 4 different things all together because they're all on the same PO number, and finalize and place that order. And then all of those that were checked move off of the purchase order list, and QFloors changes the status of the item to on order. It's been ordered. That's why it shows in the on order list, because it has that status. And the reference number you gave it, QFloors puts it in here. There's some other details over here, the date that you ordered it, the date it got created. Your invoice line status now reads on order. The ones that were already out in the warehouse, when we selected the product number, show a ready status. It's ready for installation because it's here. We've received it. It was actually already here when we created the sale in some cases. When you do your receiving, You check off the items that came in, and you're verifying quantities. Make sure that when we receive this, that it is a 12 by 16 8 or that came in. Make changes there if it's wrong. Finalize receiving. What date did it come in? Click OK. If we have something like this where we ordered six items, or maybe ordered a pallet of some laminate or something, and only some of it came in, when you do your receiving, you can do partial receiving. What date did it came in? We received 4 of the 6. So when we click OK, it's going to change number 28 to an original quantity of 4 and move it to the stock list that we've received it. And QFloors will create an exact copy of this product, same reference number, PO number. It's just going to have a quantity of 2, and it'll leave it in the on order list. But it will have a new product number. So you've got 2 products, number 28 and number 400 something, whatever the next number in line is. There it is. So this one doesn't show it right away. It did move to stock. It doesn't display that right away, but here's the new one that got created for a quantity of 2, so we can receive it when it does come in. And then product number 28 down here is now a quantity of 4, and we've received it. So when you do your receiving, QFloors automatically changes your line statuses to ready. When all of the lines read ready status, all the material lines, then the job changes from order status to ready. So if I come down, and we'll talk about job costing a little later, but if I just job cost these right away, those are dummy lines. They're really done. I don't need them showing up anywhere else. Now the job is ready order because all the materials have been received. That's what these lists are here. Jobs where materials either need to be ordered or haven't been received yet. Jobs that all the materials are ready. So that's the ordering process. It starts with invoice confirmation. Then you order things from this list. We strongly recommend don't order anything unless you're sitting at the computer looking at this list and the item that you need to order is in the list. If it's not there, do what it takes to get it into the list and then order it. And that can't always be the case. We know if you're out on the road working with your customer and you're calling your rep, but that's the general suggestion, strong suggestion is use the software to let it help you order things. Don't forget to order it. Don't order it twice. Things like that. It'll help prevent those issues. And then do your receiving here. And the stock list is a list of everything, products that you stock all the time, products that you have special order just for jobs. Do your searching down here at the bottom to find things. At some point, we either did call or need to call the customer and get it scheduled if we didn't already. That's your next install date. Printing a work order. Switch to work order, click print. Right now the work order kind of serves as a pick list for your warehouse. It'll show the quantity needed, it'll show the quantity on hand, quantity needed, and the quantity balance after pulling that out of inventory, cutting it off a roll or pulling it off a pallet or whatever, pulling that quantity. So you print your work order, and I would say probably print the work order as late in the game as possible, probably the day before installation. So you can use a scheduled installs list and plug in a custom date for tomorrow to see the jobs. Oops, too much there. Let's say today's May 27th. There's tomorrow's jobs. So you can print your work orders and then get those materials ready, have work orders ready. So it's not a big scramble the day of. You don't want to print a work order too early. In most cases, as a kind of a just in case, you don't want the wrong work order floating around if the customer came and changed the color that they wanted. Maybe you keep a few colors in stock and they change your mind. You don't want the wrong work order out there and you cut the wrong roll. So we send it out, it gets installed. If the installer's out on the job and any changes need to happen, something's wrong, we need to order more materials, they should really be calling in, and someone needs to add that or to the invoice or change the invoice, so that when it comes time to do the job costing or closing up this invoice, there are no surprises. We already know that there's additional setting materials or whatever it may be. Everything's known if they'll call back. And of course, all that already happens, right? You never have any surprises come up when the job's done and you're getting a bill or something back from the installer. Never happens. Job costing is closing up line by line this invoice to say that it's been installed or delivered to the customer. It's as simple as just clicking these boxes, and you really are only focusing on the body of the invoice. The shipping and overhead costs, it doesn't matter if those ever get checked off or not. They don't post anywhere in your general ledger. They don't go anywhere. They're simply there for costing. In other discussions, other webinars, we talk about the shipping a little more. It's an estimated cost right down to the end, unless you've gone some extra steps to force it to be an exact cost. The overhead is definitely just an estimated dollar amount. You don't have to use that. But again, it doesn't matter if you check those or not. So you're focusing in the body here. Before you start checking off boxes, you want to make sure that the date is correct. If the date's blank and we start job costing, clicking boxes, QFloors is going to post the labor to the installer's labor report with today's date, when maybe it got installed a few days ago, which might have been the prior month. So you want to make sure it's got the right date. I'm going to put this as today's date, because if I do a future date, it'll give us a warning message, and I don't want to deal with it. You just click OK is all. And then you want to make sure you've got installer names selected on your labor lines. Probably would have done that before we even printed the work order, really. Who are we assigning this to for doing the labor? You can of course have different installers on different line items. We'll save our changes. You really need to save after making changes before checking off boxes. It'll tell you otherwise. It'll tell you that you've got to save it first. And then looking at the installer's bill, he's charged us for doing some carpet installation. So we know this Pebblebrook 252 square feet was installed. Go ahead and check that box. It got installed. And check the labor. That line is delivered. If you have only one or the other clicked, the line does not read delivered. So job costing is one, clicking this box and sending that dollar amount to a report file for that name. That way you can just run a report day before payday. I wouldn't do it last minute if I could help it. And that'll show you the total of all the job costing you did. Now what if he charges you a different amount? You'll right-click that labor amount and plug in what he did charge you. And click OK. And save your changes. So we're click that box. So we just sent a $100 amount to the labor report file for Brian. Doesn't show delivered yet. We'll check that off. So we're telling the software how much we're paying the installer for doing that particular work. We're telling the software that that line of this job is done. When it's completely job costed, I'm just going to go through the rest of it here and checked off all the boxes. And it doesn't matter if it's the bottom one, the top one, the middle one, the last one that you check forces the job to go to a completed status up at the top. And at that point, the software will check the tax cost for you to send that to your sales or use tax report. And there it went. It's completed. The tax liability has been posted. It's all done. And then it'll stay in that completed status, and you're off working on other sales. So you do your job costing. When the installers bring bills to you, you want to stay on top of that. When the sale goes to a completed status, in the background, QFloors creates the accounting entry, the journal entry, to record the sale and the decrease in inventory and to record the sales tax liability. So it's very, very critical, pivotal point in the software to do your job costing. It's the pivotal, critical point in the software. I would say the earlier critical, pivotal point was that invoice confirmation. A lot of things had to happen to get to this point, to where we have style names and color names, and so that's a very, very central point in the whole process. If you're not doing your job costing, then your contract labor reports are not complete. You don't know how much to pay the installer. Your journal entries aren't happening, so your sales are not recorded. Basically, your financial reports are not correct. Notice that the commission box did not get checked off automatically. That's because there's a balance. So a completed sale with a balance is a receivable. There's Mr. Adams. So these are the companies where we've finished the work, but they still owe us a balance. You can click that manually to send that dollar amount to the commission report for that salesperson, or when you take that final payment, QFloors checks it for you. So that's the front-end process. Front-end meaning the sales and inventory management for the sale to get products ordered and received. At this point, of course, you can print another invoice. You can print statements. Customer accounts, you can print statements from right within here. Check the boxes. Who do you want to print a statement for, and click print statement. If it's not a customer account, then status, statement, and click the print button down at the bottom here. And if there's multiple invoices for the same customer, it'll group them together. It's really grouping them by the phone number. But you click the print button at the bottom of the list, and it'll print a statement. Okay. While all of that's going on, we're creating sales, we're taking payments, and getting inventory lined up, and pulling the inventory from the warehouse, getting jobs installed, and job costing, and you're getting bills in the mail. And you're going to be paying installers and employees, and paying bills in the checkbook. So the back end, kind of accounting, bookkeeping side of things, bills, credits. This and the checkbook really are very, very easy parts of the program to learn and use day to day. When you receive bills in the mail, you should be putting them into the software very soon. Don't let those stack up. And QFloors is not like other software programs. I know QuickBooks users can sometimes get into this where they're putting the bill in when it's time to pay it. You want to enter your bills when you receive them, so that QFloors can show you on your financial reports, here's the total bills, the total liabilities that you have outstanding, what's your accounts payable. Click the New button, and you can select the vendor here, and then from your vendor account setup it fills in your any terms, what's your net due date based on the terms you've set up. You'll just change your date here to when did this, what was the actual invoice date on the vendor's invoice, what's their invoice number. Custom number, not customer number. It's really custom, whatever you want to put in there, anything. Most of the time I'd say you're probably going to skip that box, but you can put anything you want in there to further identify or label this bill. You can change your terms. Maybe this, normally on the majority of our bills, we get these terms. And so that's what you set up in your vendor accounts so that the normal terms come up. But sometimes you'll get a bill where it's different terms. So you can delete those out, delete and enter to take those terms out and just plug in what's the due date, that the final net due, 30 days out, or due on receipt, put it at today's date, or the original invoice date for the net due. I'm going to make a little sidetrack. Be careful with Mohawk. I've seen how they've been doing this the last few years, where their due date at the bottom of their invoice, the terminology down there is more like past due on June 13th, or June 15th in this case, using this date. Past due on June 15th. Well, that means it's past due, so the due date was June 14th. So I don't know why they do that. It seems a little tricky or underhanded. I don't know, but just be aware of that. Other vendors may be doing it as well. So now we're down into the body of the bill, and you'll select your general ledger account. What are we getting billed for? So in this case, when it's materials that you purchase for resale, carpet, laminate, tile, cabinets, countertops, furniture, appliances, teddy bears, whatever you sell, inventory. It really needs to be the inventory account. When you select the inventory account and press tab or enter, and you get to this description box on the line, it's a list of products that have not yet been linked up to a bill to pay for it. I want to come back to our product here, at least one of our products. Let's take this one. And when we created it, QFloors gave it a purchase number that's based on the job number and line number, PO52. That's all I would have given the order desk when I ordered it, PO52. And so in here you type in your PO number. And there it is. So we click the one that we're getting billed for. And then QFloors fills in the rest of the line with the details coming from that product. And then you can go on to the next line. And you can either scroll down, or if you have the PO number that's showing right there on your vendor invoice, it's on your desk that you open up the mail. I don't see any of the Mohawk items right off the bat. We'll take this one. Now, what if you, in your product, have a quantity or price that's different from what's on your vendor's invoice? These details are coming from the product screen, what you originally set up. This is what we're ordering and the cost we expect to be paying for it. Well, if it's different on the vendor invoice and the vendor invoice is correct, then you'll make your change here so that your bill total is correct. So if they charge us some other amount, we change it. Same with your quantity. Maybe we got billed for some freight. Don't think I need a description for that, so I'm just going to jump over. You can do it in square foot or yards. You can do one freight line for the freight itself, another freight line for any other fuel surcharges or whatever they're charging you for. Or you can lump them all together yourself, do the math and add them together, or maybe the invoice shows a total freight on it. And some amount. Notice that we did not get a box where you can select something here. It's just whatever you want to type into it. So when you're doing freight or rent or some loan account that you're paying, It's just any description you want to type something into, if needed. You can skip it if you don't need it. Keep in mind that you can do that Control F as in find, Control F, and do a search, and maybe search the bill line for some description that you did type in there sometime. You can't remember what it was, which bill it was, so it might be helpful to put something there. Just pointing that out. Any comments at the bottom? Once the bill total before any discounts matches the actual vendor's invoice total before any discounts, then we're good to go. We'll click the Save button. When we click Save, it's going to, in this case, it's going to warn us about this change in cost. Normally, it will open the payments window, which is the same as clicking this button. So we'll click Save. We're going to get this warning. The cost of the selected product on line number 2 doesn't match this bill. Shows you your difference. Should QFloors change the cost on the product to match this bill? Absolutely yes. See how it says absolutely right there? No, it really should. Yes. Very, very rare where would you ever click no. So we'll click yes, and in the background, QFloors is going to go and change that product cost to the $22.18. Now it opens that payment window for you, which again is the same as if you had clicked the payments button down here. But you can just click Save. It'll open this window for you, and it's reading your discounts and setting up the earliest date that you can take a discount. So this will be 20 days out. And it's adding together all of the inventory lines to discount them. Discounted amount $454.66 is discountable at 5%. Freight, rent, utilities, loan, any other account is going to show up under non-discounted amount. Some vendors will send you an invoice where they've kind of maybe they're discounting the freight. I've seen that sometimes. It's not very common, but some of them will. So when you click your Save button, you'll see in here, here's your net final payment. If that's not correct, you can come back in here and tweak these and change these to get it to where it's matching what the vendor is trying to do. Now, I know with some vendors, bull use sometimes, it's off by a few cents. And here's your discount itself. And so if they can't do math correctly, I say too bad for them. I'm going to take the discount that mathematically comes out correct and just take the payment and run with it. But you can change your numbers up in here to get the right net if you really need to. There's your bill. Then you open up the next bill on your desk and click New and fill in the blanks, and away you go. Let's talk about a credit real quick. If you click New and maybe the same vendor here, and when it's a credit situation, you want to use the materials general ledger account, not inventory. It's the way the software is doing the accounting in the background for most of the transactions in the software. When there's a credit situation, the account left standing out there with a balance that really shouldn't have a balance is the materials account. So you post your credit back against that account. Any description you want there, and any sort of units, square foot or yards, and quantity, and then negative. Maybe you're getting credit for labor as well. Hopefully so, if that was part of it. And when you click Save, it's all non-discounted. We'll click the Save button here and close. Maybe you have a check in your hands. Maybe the business owner is writing out a personal check to contribute money into the business. Maybe an insurance company or one of your vendors mailed a check to you for whatever reason, program rebates and so forth. So you'll click New and you'll type in who's the check from, and what was the check date, any sort of invoice number or anything you want to put there. Maybe it doesn't apply. And then in the account, you need to select your insurance, if it's some sort of insurance rebate. Maybe if it's a program rebate, you would need in your chart of accounts. And that would probably be either income or other income. I'm going to say it's income. And then we can select that account. Negative amount, again, it's money coming to me, it's a credit. And we'll save, and then when the payment window opens here, we want to add this to deposits. We've got to deposit this. It's an actual check in our hands. Question here, do we want vendors set up first or manufacturers? Let's see, vendors should be one of the first things set up, or manufacturers, question mark. So either way, Daryl, in general, following that getting started checklist that's in the quick start manual, that goes through all the setups. So you can work on vendors one day and be working on manufacturers another day. Whoever you can involve and enlist in your company to get those setups done before you start plugging in bills and invoices and inventory and all that. So either way, it's not going to matter which one you do first. You just generally want to have the majority of your setups done before you start plugging in live transactions. Good question. Very good question. You do want to have the vendors set up before you start entering bills for sure. And you have to have manufacturers set up before you can start creating inventory. Okay, Deborah's making a good point here. This is something we see, we're just kind of sidetrack here since we were just in chart of accounts. If you click new here, and you type in an account, and we'll say this is our overtime, and I'm going to click down here and select, yeah, that's a expense account, and that should be good, right? I can save that. But we ended up with a blank name. So trying to get programmers to prevent this from happening, but we ended up with a blank name. Now if we do this again, and let me come back and modify this one, put the name back on it. So I actually didn't do this the way I thought I was going to do it. Press enter and save that. But I ended up, I'd click new and I got a blank one here. Every account must have an assigned category. And you say, okay, well, I'm just trying to add a new account here. Just trying to add a new account. So we get these blank ones. If you just keep clicking new, it's going to add a new line. So when you save, you just it's stuck. You have to give every one of these a category. And so if they're going to end up being blank names, that message does say if the account name is blank, it must still have a valid category. So we see this from time to time. So I'm putting them at other income expense because those, after I've saved it, will show up way down at the bottom of the list, out of the way. And then if you ever need to add a new account, you can click new again, or you can scroll down to the bottom of the list and take one of those and change it to whatever you need and make sure it's shown. These other blank ones, we probably don't want those to show Don't want blank ones to show up to get accidentally used when you're creating bills and doing other transactions. So a little safeguard explanation there. Sorry that that happens. I think there's ways that we need to prevent that. Okay, we've created a bill, we've created a credit, and we've created a credit that represents a check that we received in the mail. Going to the checkbook screen, you click your refresh button down at the bottom here. And you can change your date. It's showing bills that are due 7 days out. We can change that. Let's do that. We're going to put it way out. And you can sort it by vendor name. You can narrow it down by vendor name. There's a little box at the bottom here. Enter. Now I'm seeing only that particular vendor's bills. Here's the credit, or a credit. I don't know if it's the one I created. Looks like it is. And to pay a vendor, you'll click the boxes on the lines for the ones that you're paying. And if we're going to take a credit, here we've got one check in the works for $2,500. If we click this one here, it will decrease that amount, so we're paying $551. So we have that one check going. Maybe we're paying some other vendors. Here's some insurance bill that's owed. We see some installer pay in there. I'm not going to deal with those just yet. We've got multiple checks in the work. So at this point, we could just put 3 checks in the printer, click the Save button, and they'll print out. I need to have a bank account selected down here. There are checks marked to be printed. Do you want to print while saving? Yes, we'll print them and save them in your register. No, we'll save them in your register but not print. Cancel will just take us back to here. Maybe we're not going to pay this one, so that one drops out. So I'm going to click no since I don't have a printer hooked up here, but you would click yes. Make sure your checks are in the printer, and they print out, and there they are in the register, and you have a new register total. For paying some bills, let's click a couple of them down here. And maybe we want to change the date on this check. So we click on it, and that shows details up in here, and you can change your date. I want this dated for yesterday or tomorrow. Do you want to change the date on all of these checks? No, just the one. So one's going to get the 15th, one will get the 16th. Maybe this one got paid online, or maybe it was an automatic deduction out of your checking account. Just comes out every month. You have it arranged that way. That's what this non-check item checkbox is for here. So you click the middle box here, click the non-check item, and now that's going to get a 0000 check number. But you can change that. Maybe you want to give it a reference number. So you can type in anything you want, text or numbers, press enter, and that's the check number that's going to show up in your register. There it is. You can change that. Maybe we want to change this. Okay, it's showing a blank one here. Change this to something else. Maybe it should have been a 4 instead of a 3. Maybe the date should have been a different date. You can change that as well. You can do the same with an actual check number. Maybe that check jammed when you're printing it, so you can change it here and put the next check number. I already have that number. And so change your number, put that check in the printer, and click print to reprint it. You don't have to void the check just to change the check number and get it printed on a different check number. Okay, you'd want to change this also down here because the next check number is now check number 1028. Make sure you press enter after changing that. You can also do a quick check. Click the new button in the checkbook screen and just fill in the blanks. Check dated today, and it's for, let's see who's in here. We'll pick some vendor. And plug in some amount. This box here is for an invoice number, as if you were filling out the vendor bill first. What's the invoice number if there is one? Here would be a memo line on your check. You know, when you are handwriting checks, is there a memo that you want to type in there? If there's an actual account number set up in your vendor accounts, that will show up on the memo line plus whatever you type in here. And then the account, as if you're filling out a bill, what account is this for? Inventory. If you select inventory here, though, you can't select the product like you really need to. But you can select inventory, or you can select rent, or whatever it might be. Select the account. And click Save. Do we want to print this? I could have checked the non-check item if it were electronic. Okay, so we got to check, print it out. That's a quick check. Or we could have, again, checked the little box there. If it's an electronic transaction, we're just recording it in our check register without creating a bill first. But in the background, it created a bill for us. There's our invoice number, inventory. Now we can come in here, if it were an actual flooring vendor, and select some inventory. Now that throws this one off probably because we paid more or less than that, but I'm not going to go into that right now. You'd have to set up something else to get it paid off. But that's quick check. You can transfer funds with the quick check. Click New. Maybe we went on our bank's website and we moved some funds from one account to another account. So I'm going to type something generic here. And instead of selecting one of your inventory or some loan or whatever it is, you'll select the other bank account or select a credit card account. So in this case, we see a transfer, and if we switch to the other account, we see a transfer as a deposit. That's quick check. Deposits. When you enter payments on a customer invoice, those show up in here to be deposited. You can sort it by date or by customer name. We see this check that I created, a bill for it to represent the check that's got to get deposited. I would say normally I'll sort this by type. Here's the check that's coming from a bill screen. So we're going to deposit that. I don't want to modify this deposit. No, you could. We could click yes and add this to it, but typically you're going to click New and select the items that you're going to the bank. You want to do this before you go to the bank. Maybe there's some cash that we want to take. I don't see any cash payments in here right now, but you'd select your checks and cash that you're taking to the bank right now. Credit card deposits are going to get deposited into your bank account separate from the checks and cash, so you do those as a separate deposit altogether. And then you'll click Save, and it'll ask you want to print a deposit ticket. If you're handwriting those, then you can click No, of course. And there we've created a deposit. Payroll. Sorry, let me jump to one other topic here. Let's come back to our invoice 52. And we're going to scroll down and see this cost for this product that we did the special order for, and we just created a bill to pay for it. The cost is highlighted blue. That tells you that that product is linked up to a bill over in the bills credit screen. Therefore, the cost has been verified. Remember, we changed the cost on one of those products, and it said, hey, should QFloors go and fix that product cost? And we told it yes. So when that cost is blue, that means it's that product has been linked up to a bill. Just wanted to point that out. Okay, so we did job costing, and we talked about checking the box sends a dollar amount to a report file for that name, having the commission box cost checked off, it sends that dollar amount to a report file for that name, having the tax cost checked off, sends that tax, not the 145 in this miscellaneous charge use tax situation, but this is the tax out here, send that to a report. So under reports, you have contract labor, sales commission, sales tax. So if we're paying an installer, you can select the name. The cutoff date is really looking at the completion date. When did it get installed? And so if we change this here to say January 31st of the year, the things that we just job costed recently are not going to get included on this current report that we're finalizing. This is the old stuff. So you put in a cutoff date. Today's Thursday. I'm getting checks ready for tomorrow, but I'm only paying the installer up for the work that got done up through last Friday, the 10th. So I'd put, and since this got installed today, it will not get included on this current report that we're creating. And you can assume pretty safely that these are correct because you verified the costs line by line as you did the job costing. Now we see some negatives in here. That means we either had a negative quantity on a line to take back some labor for some reason, or we job costed something and finalized the report last week or earlier, and then we went back and unjob costed, unchecked the box. We're going to talk about credits and claims situations, I believe, in next week's webinar. So I'm just going to run with this. Here we've got a total, and you click Finalize Report. And then it gives it a name based on the installer's last name, first initial, and the cutoff date that you gave it. And there's the report. You can export it to spreadsheet, print out a copy for yourself, one for you, one for the installer. 3562.15, and then you go to the next installer and finalize the report for them, put in a cutoff date and finalize report. You can uncheck things and say, well, I don't want to pay him for that right now. And so the only things that will get included are those that are actually checked off, and you finalize report. You can go and open up a previously saved report, 3562.15. So then to pay this person in the employee screen, you click on their name and you plug in over here the amount from the report. You don't have to type in the amount from the report. You can pay them a different amount. Looks like we've got some extra issue down here. We're charging them for materials purchased, I believe. We can say, well, we don't have anything for that this week. That was last week. Not deducting anything from his pay or adding anything to his pay this time. And save our changes. And then create the bill. Really, it's not creating the check just yet. It's creating a bill in the background. A payroll payment's been scheduled. So we come over here and look. You don't have to come to the bill screen and look, but there's the bill that got created. So we didn't really create a check yet. But in here, I've got a lot of them for Brian, but here's today's date. There's the one that we just created. and then you pay it just like it was any other. You don't have to click here unless you want to change the date or non-check item. So you can just click the box, save, make sure there's a check in the printer, and away it goes. So the process would probably be go to your report window, generate a report for each installer one by one, finalize and print, and go to the next one, finalize and print, and then take those over to the employee screen and click on one name at a time and plug in the amount, press enter, make any changes down here that you need to, create check, and then come to the checkbook screen and click off all the boxes for the different installers that you're paying. You must be paying me. There we are. Commissions work the same way. Again, it's based on job costing, and we mentioned earlier how critical that is. So under reports, sales commission, same window, just a different list of names. You have a cutoff date. I'm paying you for jobs that got installed up through such and such date. And you select the name and you finalize. And then in the employee screen, you go to that person and you plug in an amount, save it, and click create check. Make any other changes down in here that you might need to. If it's just an hourly person, you don't have a report to go finalize, then you can just type in their hours. And that's the basics of payroll. Setting up payroll is a whole other discussion we're not going to go into today. Your sales tax, basically the same window. This time there's no list of names, of course, but we have a cutoff date. I'm doing the tax report for last month. Make sure you pick your date. We've seen a few times where someone doesn't pay attention to that. They leave it at today's date. It includes April's invoices that you're paying tax for and May's. And there's not a way to undo that report. So make sure you put in your cutoff date. And that goes the same with the labor reports and commission reports. Make sure you put in a cutoff date. You can't undo the report and create it again. You can pre-export it to spreadsheet, pre-print it to paper, finalize. So this is the same thing when you finalize. It's a name. You can change the name if you need to, and okay, and there's your report. We did a webinar a few weeks back, a month or so ago, all about the sales taxes, different sales tax setups and the different options and functions in the sales tax report. And you have all your financial reports now. Because we're on top of our job costing, our profit and loss report and our balance sheet should be up to date. We're putting our bills in day to day. We're not sitting on bills for a week or two and putting them in when we're ready to pay them. We put them in when we receive them. We create our sales. We do our job costing in a timely manner. Then your financials are correct. And Deborah's pointing out as well, make sure you're doing your checkbook transactions daily. Some people we know of are still handwriting checks, and that's okay. But ideally you're printing them, and really important is do your deposits live. Do this before you go to the bank, along with the job costing and the inputting of the bills and so forth. And then your financial reports are correct. I'm going to date this way back since I'm in a demo here and I've got old data. You can double click on one of these to open up the general ledger report for that one account. I double clicked freight, so there's a general ledger report. It shows the details. How did we get to that balance? Same in the balance sheet. You can double click to drill down. And I should point out here, if you double click in the general ledger report, it will take you to the transaction. that created the general ledger posting that adds up to the total balance.
Where can we find tax reports? It's not on the website.
Oh, I guess it's not on the website. That's not good. I'll look into that and make sure it gets out there. I thought it was already there. There it is. We did it March 7th. That's the actual video file, so we did it off of this computer. So I'll make sure it gets out there. I'm sorry it's not out there yet. I thought for sure it was. Usually they're up there within a day. This webinar today should be posted on the website probably by tomorrow, if not today. So there's your reports. Stats, reports on your leads and different things. And that's it. That's the basic process. So I'm going to recap very, very quickly, even higher level than what we went through. Do your setups first. If you're new to QFloors, get your setups done, at least the great majority of them. You should be 90 to 99% done with your setups before you start putting in live transactions. That includes doing B2B downloads of your pricing. Start with leads. If you're going to use this screen, we recommend it. It's a great tool for helping the company to manage, track your leads, track your opportunities. Are we winning and losing? To help track your advertising. It's a great tool for that. So you start with your lead. You create a new lead. You can check out samples. You can click the invoice button after creating that lead. That'll create a sale. Filling out your sale as your names and addresses and everything, and then your line items. Remember your comments line by line. You can add notes in the background here, comments at the bottom. Style name, color name. If you're selling an actual product, it has to have both a style and a color. You can select inventory here if you stock it. Otherwise, just type the name in of what you're selling, put in units and quantity and price. Your labor lines. What labor are we doing? Take your payments. Save it. You can print an invoice or print a work order. Work order, you'll have to make sure you print that as late in the game as possible, probably the day before installation. That's highly recommended. Product screen, it starts with invoice confirmation to create products that we don't stock so we can get them ordered, or to make sure that existing stock has been selected and reserved for that line of that job. This is one of the very important, critical, pivotal points in the software, is making sure that invoice confirmation is done daily, 2 or 3 times a day perhaps. Purchase orders is where you order from. Do you're receiving here. Stock lists of things that you have received, and they're here. You can print out a work order, it gets installed. You do your job costing, that's checking the boxes over here. Remember, you can right click to change the labor cost to pay the installer what you're actually going to pay him. Didn't mention this earlier, but don't right click a product cost. If the product cost is wrong, that means the cost, I'm going to double click this number 17 here, it'll take us to that product. That means the cost is wrong here. This is where it ought to be fixed. And if that product was linked to a bill, it would show it here, and that means the bill is wrong if this is wrong. So don't right-click a product cost. But do your job costing. This is the critical pivotal point in the software. This is where everything really hits the road to post amounts that you're paying installers and commissions and sales tax. It's saying that that line of the job is done. It's saying that the job is done when all of the lines are done. And when all of them are done, it's a completed status. The accounting entry for the sale happens in the background. It gets posted for you. And that's how you have correct financial reports. And that's where we want you to be, is relying on the financial reports to manage and run your business and make decisions, not from the one little number that a lot of people use to run the business. That's the wrong one to focus on. Not that it's unimportant, of course, but but your decisions, most of your decisions should be based on your profit and loss and your balance sheet and ratios and things there that your accountant can help you with. Is your business healthy? What decisions need to be made based on financials? So we've done the front end process. During all of that time, you're getting bills in the mail. You click new, you fill in the blanks, pick an account. If it's inventory, if it's a product you're paying for, some tile, some wood, cabinets, or whatever it might be, appliances if you sell those, inventory account, and then select the product you're getting billed for. Other accounts, freight, loan payments, utilities, whatever account it might be. Save the bill. We looked at credits, just doing a negative amount. In the payment window, you've got to add to checks or add to deposits. Deposit would be we've got a check in our hands, got a credit amount, negative amount, add to deposits. If we have a check in our hands from a non-customer source. Paying those bills, that's this refresh button down at the bottom, having some items checked off. That shows you the total of all the checks you're generating, and then saving. And say yes if you've got your printer hooked up. And deposits, payments from customers show up in here. You'll click your refresh button to go grab any recent payments, check off the boxes and save it, making sure that the total in the middle here is correct before you click save. Do your monthly reconciliation, of course. And we looked at generating reports. Because we've stayed on top of our job costing, then our labor and commission and tax reports are correct. And you run your reports, and then you come in and pay those employees and installers. Paying your sales tax would be just creating a new bill and filling out the lines with or probably a line with the total from the report, and running your financials. That's the basic overall process of running your business day to day. It's only taken us 2 hours to go through it like this, but that's your whole business in 2 hours, just on a basic surface level here in QFloors. Hopefully that helps. If you're new to QFloors, hopefully this helps you to see the big picture of the process flow. Again, there's the basic training webinar, the intermediate training webinars. Those are on our website as videos, recorded webinars. This one will be recorded and out there later. We're going to wait here for any other questions, any hands raised, anybody else have a question about anything we've looked at. Here's one here. Oh, you're welcome, Daryl, and thank you. Daryl's I'm getting married later in June, so I don't think anybody, QFloors customers, know that. I don't know where Daryl found out, but maybe I told you. I don't remember. And you're welcome, Brittany. Thanks for everybody for participating today. We are very happy to have customers, the customers that we do, and your input, your suggestions, your patience as we make this the software that you need it to be and that we want it to be. And please continue giving us your support and your ideas. Thank you.